Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Hard Nine podcast. Today is January the 24th, and as we sit, we are, if you carry the 64 days away from meaningful baseball, where we open up in Chavez Ravine and the madness of Sonny Gray being on the bump.
Yeah. Every day we're gonna open this talking about the Dodgers, and I don't want to do it anymore. So I'm gonna just
You have
move
to.
past it. Nope, don't
We
have to.
have to.
I'm tired of it. Yeah, we're gonna open the season, sweeping the Dodgers in a 4-game series and shocking everybody.
Shock the world. It's us against the world. That's what Jim Harbaugh said, who, by the way, signed with the Los Angeles Chargers today.
He did, but we're not here to talk about Jim
No, we are
Harbaugh.
not. We are here to start our player profiles for the 2024 season. Last year, we really enjoyed doing this. We got great feedback from you guys. Once again, thank you for everything. While you're listening, if you could hit that little subscribe button on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, whatever you're doing, listening to us on, we appreciate all of you. Any of that helps. We greatly appreciate that. But we got really good feedback on the player profiles. You and I enjoy doing them. I think it's great to get people geared up for the season. So who better to start with than the guy that came here because he wanted to be here, and then all of a sudden was sort of thrown directly under one of those big old yellow school buses, only to come out even better on the other side, sort of like the Phoenix. Our guy right behind us, Mr. Willson Contreras.
Yeah, this last year was such a tough year for Willson Contreras. Not on the field, he was amazing on the field. We'll get into that in a little bit. But off the field, the way that the Cardinals treated him as a whole. And I've seen a lot of people blame Ollie for this. He had a part in it. He's not blameless. But if you think they just signed the biggest free agent contract ever to anyone other than Matt Holliday, and you think the coach has the ability to just bench that guy, no, he doesn't. That was an organization wide decision. And I think we're seeing a lot of it, a lot of the reasons why. Jack Flaherty spoke on it. Wilson had a press conference at winter warmup where he said, I think the guys we got in here now will take accountability and be men when they mess up and not blame other people. I think that was pointed towards some people that are no longer here.
It
But
might have
yeah,
been pointed to people who are here.
I don't know. I mean, that's, the way he said it, it didn't sound like it was, but who knows? Either way, hopefully the situation goes better. I just felt horrible as a Cardinal. It was embarrassing. Like the Cardinals are known for what all their faults and everything. They're known for players being treated well when they're here. And the way that they treated Willson Contreras was just embarrassing to me.
I have never seen anything like that ever. Not just from Cardinals. I don't think I've ever seen it from another franchise who goes out and signs the guy that they want. I mean, we got our guy. That's what we heard.
The guy
Even
they
if it
wanted
wasn't
after
Sean Murphy.
Sean Murphy. Yeah.
However, like they got the guy that they wanted. They bring him in. Everybody's pumped about it. The dude is intense. Everybody seems to love him, except I'm still flabbergasted. What do you think Willson went home at night and just like sat down and talked to either his brother or his wife or his whoever he talks to? And what do you think he said? Like, what would you say? Put yourself in those shoes.
I can't because I think in order to do that, you'd have to be as successful as Willson Contreras, and I am obviously not. I don't know. The one thing I do believe is water under the bridge. I do, and I hope that's the case.
It better be.
Yeah, and it needs to not happen again. This all being said, Wilson wasn't good enough defensively last year. Catchers do
That's
need
fine.
to be able to be trusted by their pitching staff.
Agreed.
So
Agreed.
Wilson's not blameless in this, but I do
No.
think even with all of that, they handled it horribly, like as badly as they could have handled it, I think.
With that being said, he still put up, what was it, an 826 OPS last year?
He's great offensively.
124 OPS plus, I think, one of the top in his
Yeah.
career.
It was his
Yeah,
second best OPS, not OPS plus, second best OPS of his career. And
yeah,
best since like
826.
2018.
2019 is 888. He had one, obviously 16 and 17 in a smaller role. 17 not as much, but yeah, top three for his next career. And
He's
again, like I
better.
said, a 124 OPS plus. Dude hit 20 home runs last year in 400 at bats, 420 at bats. Like, he's going to put up offensive numbers. I don't know how many games he caught. What was 97 games caught last year? I would assume that's going to be right around that number again, wouldn't you? Maybe a little bit over 100.
I don't know. That's interesting. We'll see how much they want to play Ivan Herrera, who we'll talk about later. Because they're going to want to play him a lot. So I think if you give Ivan around 60 games and give Wilson 102 behind the play, that'd be perfect.
I think
But
so.
also injuries, and if Wilson's, body's breaking down or whatever. He's getting older too. He's not old, but he's getting older for a catcher. So you got to be mindful of that. But I think in total, you can expect him to play 110 to 125 games with DH in there as well, probably,
Yeah,
ideally.
I think. I mean, like I said, last year he played 125 games,
Mhm.
um, the third most in his career. I think he'll be in that area again, 125 to 135,
I would
and
think
that's
so,
good.
yeah.
That's really good for a guy like that. Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah, and
at the
I think
catcher
for him,
position.
like, yeah, and especially like the Cardinals have so many good bats that I'm not opposed to when he's not catching. Sometimes not him also not DHing. Like you want his bat in the lineup, obviously, as much as possible. He is your fifth hitter, and he was, one of your top three hitters last year. But you also want to keep that guy fresh. Like catching's demanding. He's getting older. And you have options that you can put in at the DH spot. If he needs a day off, just give him a full day off sometimes instead of DHing him. Let him rest a little
Two
bit. I'm okay with
two
that.
things: 67 RBIs, second most in his career. 2017 he had what do you have 74? There we go. And also this year 6 stolen bases, the most in his career.
He's a
He gets
wild
to
runner.
he's stealing 10.
I mean, he could. He's going to be a 2010 catcher.
Bigger
Um,
bag.
He's also crazy on the bases. There's somewhere he should not be going, and he goes. And sometimes he's safe, and sometimes he is not even close to being safe. But I think that's the thing with Wilson that goes beyond play. The energy that guy brings is incredible. And the fact that, like, if we remember correctly, go down memory lane last year when they took him out of the catcher role for, I think it was like 10 days. The first series after they did that, they were going to Wrigley for his first time. That's such a hard situation for him to go deal with, that he's now not catching. He's with his new team, going to play with the old rival. They were struggling and all of that. And he went off and his energy didn't wane at all. The way he handled last season was incredibly impressive, and his maturity was like, remember when Wilson came up, it was he was a little bit immature and he was a loose
Mm-hmm.
cannon. He's still a loose cannon. He got ejected like three times, but but though he showed a lot to me. Not that he needs to prove anything to me, but his maturity level of how he handled that situation, didn't complain publicly at all. I thought was really impressive, and he performed incredibly well after that point.
Massive fan, obviously massive fan. Um, I think he was ranked sixth on the MLB.net, our MLB network. Now, to be fair, we have had our issues with some of their things. However, I don't think there's a lot of people like to really dog on Wilson because of his defense. I understand it. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but he's still a top 10 catcher in Major League Baseball.
Yeah,
And I don't think you can deny that. And also, if we look around, I don't have the stats in front of me, but the Rangers just won with Jonah Heim. Not that he's not, he is a good defensive catcher. I'm not
he's a
saying that,
really good
but
defensive
you don't.
catcher.
Agreed. I don't know you put him in the elite category yet. He might end up there, but I don't think he's put there
Did he win
probably
the Gold
yet.
Glove this year?
That's a great question. I don't know that
He might
answer.
have won the Gold Glove this year.
Yeah, I'm just saying though, even with throwing ability and everything else, you can win a World Series as we've seen the Cubs do with Willson Contreras. I'm not saying the Cardinals are winning the
Yeah,
World Series. I'm hoping that's what happens, but there is no doubt. Did Jonah Heim win it?
I can't find it.
Oh God, that University of Illinois internet.
Oh yeah, he did win it.
Okay. Yeah, I still
So he's not
so
elite. He's just a Gold
I
Glove winner.
okay, well then I'm probably wrong there. But do you know what I'm saying? Like I
Yeah,
don't
I know
think
what
when
you're
you think of
saying. It was a
elite
bad example,
catchers,
but yeah,
Jonah Heim pops out as the guy that you're thinking about. That's all I'm saying.
maybe not for you. But
Where was he on the MLB list?
he wasn't even in the top 10 somehow.
That's what boom. That's what
That's
I'm
a
saying.
problem. He's an easily a top 10 catcher in baseball. But yeah, Wilson, I mean, right behind his brother, who should have been number one on that list, but I digress. Um, he what are we expecting from Wilson this year? Do you think he's finally going to find his voice in the clubhouse? Not that he didn't, but kind of be able to find it this year. And hopefully they just let him go. Like, you signed this guy to be your catcher. He's going to have some faulty defense. He's going to call some pitches that might not make a ton of sense. It's going to happen. But you live with it because everything else he brings is so valuable to this team, and just the energy he brings on a daily basis. It's important not to destroy that this season.
Agreed. You let him play. You let him be Wilson. You let Wilson be Wilson. You work with him more on his pitch calling if that's what you need to do. That's why
Mhm.
you have pregame meetings with the pitchers and the staff and everything else. So if you need to work a little bit more on that, do that. That's fine. Whatever it is, but you cannot temper him. You have to let him be who he is. Like they used to
Yeah,
say
you
that
have
with
to live
Puig.
with it.
Like you have to, yeah, you have to.
Bad example. Like, your
You know
example is
what I'm
not on point today.
but no, but they are. Like when Puig was going, you had to deal with the bad with the good. Like
Mhm.
there are a lot of guys in baseball that are that way. You're going to have to take a little bit of the bad to get the good. And overall, the good to me outweighs everything else with
Mm.
Willson Contreras.
Oh,
I expect him to be in the 20 to 25 home run range. I expect him to be in the 65 to 75 RBI range. I expect him to be over an 800 OPS, over 110, 115 OPS plus. I expect him to be a leader in the clubhouse. I'm excited for him to now have a new pitching staff. Even though Miles Michaelis and Steven Matz are back, I'm
mhm.
excited for this to be his staff, not guys who have all worked with Yachty in the past. I'm excited for that.
That's a big thing for me because like I'm not gonna call them spoiled. I think that's unfair. But when you look at Jack and you look at not Monty because he was gone for a while, but look at Jack and Wayno specifically, they were used to Yachty doing everything for them. Like, and same with
Correct.
Miles Michaelis. That's not their fault. That's a testament to how great Yachty was. He just took care of everything, basically. Wilson's not that. They should have known that when they talked to Willson. And that's on the Cardinals for not, bringing in another coach or doing what they needed to do to make sure they were covered when Yachty left. They didn't do that. Hopefully now they know. But I think having guys like Sonny and Lance and Kyle, those guys have been around a long time. Been around for a lot of different catchers, done a lot of catchers, I mean they're not going to know their game plan and what to do. They're not going to need the catcher to do everything for them. They're going to know what to do with new catchers. Because look at Sonny Gray just in Minnesota. He probably threw to 4 different catchers, before Ryan Jeffers took over last year. It was like a revolving door of catchers there. So I think that's going to help him a lot. And also it's going to help him, to be quite honest. Remember when he stayed back from the WBC because he wanted to learn the pitching staff? The pitchers weren't there. So
No.
he stayed back, which was great, and I thought a really really great gesture by Wilson to do that. But it only helps if you can work with the people you need to work with. All the pitchers hopefully will be in spring training this year with no problems, no injuries, and I think it's just going to benefit everybody. And the Cardinals, I hope, have made a little bit of a plan to accommodate Willson Contreras and not ask him to meet them to not meet him in the middle, but to go all the way over to their side and do everything they want.
Yeah, like I said, I'm really excited to see him. This be his staff. Like they always say the hardest thing to do is to replace the guy. Like you're better to be replace the guy who replaced the guy, if that makes sense. But
Mhm.
replacing Yachty is not. I mean, fans Yachty is. I've met 4,000 dogs named Yachty, so we understand
Yeah.
his power here in St. Louis and his fandom and everything else. So for Willson to want to come into that situation already said a lot to me about who he is as a person. We know how he is as a competitor. I think you're going to see the leadership now. I'm hoping because evidently we need it. So I'm hoping that maybe we get a little more Willson leadership out of that clubhouse.
Yeah, me too. And I think we will. Um, he's in, he's not Yachty as the like just he's not Yachty. He's not supposed to be Yachty, but
No.
his attitude and his desire to win and his competitive nature is very reminiscent of Yachty. Just that aspect of him alone. He is fiery. He will go to bat for his teammates. He'll yell at umpires. He'll do all the stuff Yachty used to do when he was a little bit younger and spry. Now, Yachty, obviously, we remember old Yachty, but when Yachty was young, he would do all those things. I'm excited to see Wilson in a playoff run. And,
Same.
obviously they have to be in a playoff run for this to matter, but I think they will be to some extent. So I'm excited to see what that looks like because we haven't seen Wilson in a postseason in a playoff run since like 2020 with the Cubs. That's like the last time. And that was a shortened season. So I'm excited to see what that looks like. I think his intensity is going to help. I think he's just a different voice and a different presence than anyone else in that clubhouse with what he brings. And I'm just hoping they let him be himself this year and don't go back and freak out again if they're on a 10-game losing streak or something.
I also like him because the Cardinals don't have a lot of these guys. They've never really honestly had a lot of these guys. I like players who get under other players' skin. The guys that you hated to play against, but if they were on your team, you'd go an extra mile for them. That's
Mm-hmm.
Willson Contreras. He is not, he will chirp. He will get in somebody else's face from the other team. He
Mm-hmm.
has no problem giving them bulletin board material and backing it up. And I love it. Like
Remember last year,
this team can be as vanilla as fuck, to be
he
honest with
ended
you.
Madison
I like the
Bumgarner's
Wilson.
career. He ended Madison
Whoa.
Bumgarner's career last year. He really did. Like they were jawing at each other. Mad Bum was like he was doing that thing where he was like stepping out of the box before they banned it. Remember he did that against Kenley Jansen
Yes.
as well and got in their heads. And then Mad Bum hit a double off him. Mad Bum got released after the game. He ended his career, I think. So Wilson does. I love that about him too. And I think him and Arenado are both kind of loose cannons in that way, where they will like they'll get in brawls. They'll do stuff like that. And I like having both of them. I told you last year I wanted to see a Mets Cardinals brawl again, but this time with Contreras on our side. So I'm still holding out hope for that one. See if that happens in
Yeah,
2024.
Yachty
But
would do that every once in a while, but other than that, the only two guys I really remember in recent history who would chirp at the other teams, John Lackey and Chris Carpenter. Like those
mhm.
two, every team hated Chris Carpenter. I mean,
Yep.
they hated him. And he didn't. I love that. I love the heel. I love to have the heel on a team who is not worried to get the other team off their game by any stretch. And it's nice to have a guy like that. And when you're playing
Especially when
against
those
him, you hate
guys,
him.
yeah. Especially when those guys back it up with their play. Like
Bingo.
if Wilson's doing that against Mad Bum and then strikes out in 3 pitches, you
Right.
look like a punk.
Doesn't go as far.
But then you hit a double and it's like, yeah, I win this battle. So yeah, I do
But what
enjoy
is
that a
great,
lot.
what would have been great about that though is if Wilson's doing that and it doesn't, and he does strike out, Mad Bum is then going to go after him. Like that's how he is also.
Yep. Yeah,
He
but
he
Mad Bum
will
did it
chirp as
after he hit
well.
the double. Mad Bum chirps everybody. He hates
Yeah.
everyone. I
But
love Mad Bum, but he
I
does.
love the attitude of Willson Contreras. I love everything about him. I'm incredibly excited. Where do you think he hits in this lineup?
I was gonna ask you that.
Great minds.
I think he bats fifth to start the year.
I do too.
Just because that's where they're putting him and that's what it is. And honestly, last year he definitely deserved to be batting. He might have been deserved to be batting third last year. Honestly, the way he hit. I think he bats fifth. I think there's a path to him batting seventh, not because he plays poorly, but because Jordan Walker jumps him. But until that happens, I think he's the five hitter until someone absolutely forces their hand to move them up.
Well, if
Move
you
them.
remember right, if I remember right, I could be wrong. But at the beginning of the year, Wilson really struggled, right, last year. And there was a
Mhm.
lot of talk about moving him way down in the order. I think
Yeah.
this year, having a whole year with this team, I have a feeling, and not having to worry about spring training and having to worry about everything, I have a feeling he kind of hits the ground running. It might not be opening day or it might not be that first weekend or that first week, but I think that first month or two, he's going to have he's going to be on the upswing, not having to try to make up time.
Yeah, he's also though he is a streaky guy. Like he is. He goes
Most
through
major league
lulls.
hitters are. That's what I've learned.
Yeah, most guys that have 800 to 820 OPSs aren't going to be consistently amazing, or they'd have better OPSs. That's just what it is. So he's going to have months where he's like the best player in the world, and he's going to have months where he's probably struggling a little bit. But I think you leave him in the five hole unless, like I said, someone else at the bottom of the order just absolutely forces your hand, and you have to give them more at bats. But to start the year, he's the five hitter for me.
It's the one thing we haven't talked about the lineup, and I don't want us to do it now. That we'll get to that later. But I am so intrigued to see how that works. In my opinion, right now, you only know two spots, and that's the 8-9 hitter.
Golding Arenado batting 2-4.
Potentially, you don't. I mean, there's a shot you could see Nolan hitting third. Like we don't know that. I think you're
No one says
probably
he wants to
right.
hit fourth.
Yeah,
So I think the spots that you do know right now that you can kind of build a framework around the lineup, honestly, would be Nolan's batting fourth, Wynn and Tommy are batting 8-9, whatever order you want to
yep.
put them in. Probably Tommy, then Mason. I think Walker's probably locked into seven right now. And then Wilson's probably five. And other than that, you got to figure out where the lefties go. What
Yeah,
do you
it's
want
gonna
them
be
one
really
three six?
interesting.
What
I'm
do you want?
excited to
We'll
see
see.
that.
It's gonna be
I
good. It's
like I
gonna be a good
said,
lineup.
I think if he gets 100 to 110 games behind the plate, another 25 to 30 DHing, that's perfect. That gets you in that 125, 135 game.
Mhm.
That's where I'd like to see him be.
Yeah, and I was also thinking about this. Like, if you wanted to use Wilson as a DH, this team doesn't really have a right-handed option off the bench you want to DH. Like you want to get Carlson in there, but he can go fill in for one of the lefties that you have in your lineup every day. Um, I think there's a chance you see Wilson DH a lot against lefties, and that's the day they get Ivan Herrera in to catch.
Hmm.
Because that makes a lot of sense. You get your right-handed bat, you get all your righties in the game, and you give Ivan a chance to be successful early on. So that wouldn't surprise me if they do that. They did that last year with Kisner a lot, where Kisner would catch against lefties, and they put Wilson at DH. So I think that could be a plan. I'm just excited. I think when we talked about this last year, we said how much he lengthened our lineup just by not having a dead spot in at the catching spot anymore. And that proved true last year. And it just looks like such a different lineup when you have a guy like him that's going to have an 800 OPS from that spot.
Let me tell you a flaw in your Herrera kids or Herrera Contreras lineup there. The
Mm-hmm.
Cardinals do not love not having it. So are we going to have a third catcher again? Is that what's going to happen?
No, you just
Because they
drop the
don't love
DH if you
that.
have to. Drop the DH if you have
They
to.
have not shown any willingness to want to do that.
Well, they did this last year with Kisner and Contreras
That's usually when
before
Herrera was up or
before
somebody
Barrera
else
was
was
up.
up.
No, before that,
I
before Contreras was benched. they were doing that at the beginning of the year to get Kisner in the game.
You
I
just
could
don't
see.
see
I
them
think
do
that's a
that a
good way
lot.
to do it.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
do
but
too. I
also
agree
like
with you.
unless there's an injury, you're not gonna have to worry about it.
Right.
You know.
Correct.
So and what's the like if there's an injury to a catcher anyway, then you still only have one catcher anyway.
Right.
So I don't think you
I
can
am in
really.
agreement with you.
Yeah.
I do not ever advocate for a team to carry 3 catchers. So I'm in total agreement with you. But I'm just letting you know that's sometimes their,
I would only
propensity
do it
not
against
to do that.
lefties. If Herrera's starting against a righty, I'm just giving Wilson a day off. That's what I would do.
Yeah, agreed. Anything else you want to get into with Willie before we just hit a couple more things before we get out of here?
No, this is one more thing. How much longer do you think Willson Contreras is a catcher for the St. Louis Cardinals? The answer can be the
Okay.
entirety of his contract. I'm asking what you think.
So are you asking, okay, can I, are you saying he transfers over to being a DH? Are you saying they trade him?
No, not
What are you
trade. Change his position.
to left field?
A la Joe
I was going
Mauer,
to ask you,
Buster Posey.
how many games does he play in left field? I think that depends on, I think at
Does it
least
depend
two.
on Paul Goldschmidt?
Yes, one, and I think it also depends on Ivan Herrera. Like, I
Mhm.
think it depends on what he does in those 50 to 60 games that we're talking about. He might get more, he might get less, but whatever he I think that also depends on that. I don't have an answer. You hit me on the blind side there. I don't have an answer for that.
There's
I
no
don't know. I
answer. There's no
have
right
not thought
answer.
about it.
My answer would be I think he is for at least another 2 years, and we'll see where we're at. That'd be my
What does he
answer.
have? 3 left on his contract? Three?
Four,
Four on
including
his
this year coming
contract?
up.
Yeah.
He's on
Yeah,
a
I think
5 year
at least the
contract. Yeah.
next two. I agree.
Yeah, and we'll see where we're at with from there. And it's not even like me hating on Wilson's defense or anything, because I do think earlier I did say he has some flaws. He does. He needs to address them. Like when we talk about the whole benching, I think they handled it poorly, but I do think there is some stuff that he needs to get better at. That's just the reality of it. But I just think you get older and sometimes catching gets harder. And just be honest, we're paying him for the bat, so you don't want him to become a guy that's just struggling to hit because he's catching all the time. You need him to be a good hitter in your lineup, and that might be something that's a deal with in a few
I
years.
I didn't look at this. I wonder how many games at first base Wilson has played in his career. Also, I
Not
just
a
don't see
ton,
them.
not much because Anthony Rizzo.
One, I still believe that Goldie's going to get an extension. But two, I don't believe that if he doesn't, Contreras takes. I don't know. I don't know
I
that
don't
I
think
see
so
that.
either, but I do think that would be a possibility if he was at a spot. I don't know if this is going to happen. He might catch his whole time. That'd be great. But I also do think with his age and the fact that I don't think they really wanted to give him 5 years. It was just to get him to sign. That there is a question of how long he lives last because he's such a good hitter. You have other options with him, particularly.
How many starts does he get in left field this year?
Zero.
Really? Last when Kyle was on with us, you both were sort of in the other boat. You thought maybe he'd get more than you think.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think so. Just because you have Tommy, Nootbaar, Walker, Victor Scott, Alec Burleson, Dylan Carlson. Like, why would you ever pick him out there over any of those guys?
Not arguing. That means nothing though.
Well, my prediction is zero.
Okay. All right. Okay. One. I'm gonna play the prices.
No way, no way. They're not going to throw him out there for one game. That's a
I'm
long-term
playing. I'm
plan.
playing the prices right game. I'm gonna take
Are you
one.
going over? Yeah, you're going to only. Yeah, you're going to win no matter what else happens. Okay.
Um. One more thing. Tommy Edman signed a 2-year deal to avoid arbitration. Good deal. Like good for Tommy to get his bag. Also good for the Cardinals to give them a little security there. I think that does one of two things. Either one, it allows you to have him for 2 years to bridge the gap to Victor Scott / Mason Wynn / fill in the blank. Or two, if things go right off that cliff that we talked about last year, that's a guy who's going to be a little bit more attractive with an extra year control for another team who's in a playoff race at
He
the
doesn't
trade
have an
deadline.
extra year of control. He has the same amount.
No, I meant instead of just if they would have gone to arbitration, you know what I mean? He has 2 years of control.
Yeah, but he always had that. That didn't add
Okay,
a
all right.
year.
Well, then forget that. Screw that point.
What they did was he had 2 years of arbitration left instead of going through this and going to arbitration twice. They said we're going to give you 2 years, 16.5 million. That's probably around his projected. I don't know what the yearly like what it is each year, but it would make sense to me for them to go 8 and 8 ish, 8.2, 8.2, just because then you don't have to pay him 10 million next year, and
Right.
it's basically an accounting thing that they did just to get him his money and to probably help them be able to be more flexible with
Seems like a
however they
lot of
structured
money
it.
for Tommy Edman.
He's going to get way more than that in the open market.
I agree. I guess what I was trying to say was it allows you to not have to go to arbitration with a player. That's what I
What you
was really
said was
trying to
wrong.
say.
I know what you were trying to say, and it was wrong. Don't try
But
to
it
cover
wasn't
that up.
because in my mind that's how it works. Like
I do think though there's a part of this where Now, if you are in a spot where Victor Scott's just like undeniable, you got to put him in center, and Mason Wynn in this scenario is you're clearly your everyday shortstop. He's got that covered. Where now the team that you could be trading Tommy to knows how much he's getting paid,
That's what I
so
meant.
that could be better. And that's not what you meant.
See, it was exact 100% what I meant.
Okay,
I'm
well,
dealing with
that's
a
fine.
tooth issue here. I'm on all kinds of meds. Just let me be.
Okay, that's fine. I don't know what to
Last
say to
thing,
that.
last thing I've got big time shout out to our Hall of Fame guys, Todd Helton, Adrian Beltre, and Joe Mauer. All three incredibly deserving. Todd Helton, the whole Colorado thing is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. You put a team in Colorado to make the money, and then you say, "Oh, well, we're not going to put him in the Hall of Fame." I've never understand that. I'll never understand that.
Took
Todd
Larry
Helton,
Walker 10 years somehow.
one of the best hitters I ever saw in my lifetime. Adrian Beltre, top three third baseman of all time, top four third baseman of all time, wherever you want to put him. Top five, that's
I don't
fine.
know.
I
He's
don't
up
know the
there. He's
number,
up there for
but
sure.
he's in the top five, I think. I mean, when you look at his WAR, it's unbelievable. He got better. You and I talked about this earlier. He got better in his 30s. Incredible career down in Texas, but after he'd played well in Seattle and LA and Boston. So, and then
Yeah.
obviously Joe Mauer, had it not been for injuries, like I don't know how long he catches, but that again, one of the sweetest swings I've ever seen.
Yeah,
Number
I'm gonna
one
start with
pick
Todd.
overall.
Yeah, from Minnesota. Struck out one time in his high school career. One time. And it was one of his last games his senior year. He hadn't struck out at all. Okay, I'm gonna give a Todd Helton stat here because it relates to the Cardinals. I think it's cool. Players with 315 plus average, this is for their career, 950 plus OPS, and 575 plus doubles. There's two in the history of baseball. It's Todd Helton and Stan Musial. Those are the two. So he's a Hall of Famer, no doubt about it. I
No, it
don't
wasn't even an
care about
argument.
Coors Field. The field's there. If you don't want a baseball field in Denver, you shouldn't have built it. But they did, so I don't
Agreed.
want to hear it. Um, he's obviously a Hall of Famer. Adrian Beltre is one of my favorite players I watched growing up. I loved him. One of the rare careers where his 30s were better than his 20s. He was amazing. With Texas, and Joe Mauer is like one of the model guy. If you want to show your kid what kind of baseball player in person they should be, show him Joe Mauer.
Right.
He's amazing. I love Joe Mauer growing up. Only player ever to be on the cover of MLB The Show twice. Fun fact. 2 years in a row.
Twins took him number one because they didn't want to pay Mark Pryor.
Yeah, and that worked out. Three
Right.
batting titles, by the
One went to the
way.
Hall of Fame.
Mark Pryor might have if he would have gone to
Well, we
Minnesota,
can't play Midas today.
just because Dusty Baker wouldn't have killed him. What else was like? Oh, Joe Mauer, three batting titles as a catcher. That's incredible.
Yeah.
He's a Hall of Famer. I'm glad he got it.
I still will never understand why Billy Wagner's not in the Hall of Fame. You can try to explain it to me
He'll
in
be
the
in next year.
comments, but I'm still not going to agree with you. Dude is the best left-handed reliever I've ever seen. I know there's John Franco out there. I know Aroldis Chapman is a freak. I understand
Josh
all that,
Hader.
but Wagner's full career, I'll take it. He
He'll be
should be
in
in the Hall
next
of
year, I
Fame.
think. He'll be in next year, I think. And
I
I know
hate
it's
that, by the way.
dumb.
Can I say that
It's
that's one
dumb, but
thing
it's the
I
way it is.
absolutely hate about Major League Baseball and the writers? I hate that. Either you're a Hall
There's
of Famer or you're not. You don't get
well,
better.
well, I don't I agree with that. And if that's your reasoning for doing it, but I also do think there is room for writers to change their minds. Like there's room for that. He should be in. Like there's no doubt about it. He should be in. He'll get in next year, I hope. But there is room for writers to look back and admit that they were wrong in voting in the past. I actually applaud that instead of being, oh well, I never vote. I don't want to, be wrong here, so I'm not going to vote for him now. I hope he gets in. I think he will. But one more thing about Joe Mauer. I'm glad he's a first ballot Hall of Famer because he kind of seemed like one of those guys that a lot of people were going to talk themselves out of just because
Hmm.
the body of work wasn't as strong as some of these other guys because of injuries and because he was a first baseman in the second half of his career. But this means to me, Yadier Molina is a no doubt first ballot Hall of Famer. And
100%.
I think we're going to get to see him and Albert go in the same year, and that's going to be
Yeah,
awesome. I think it's in
that
three
will be.
years.
Who else is going to be on that? That's it. Is that going to be it that year from this
Yeah, because
class?
that'd be it. Yeah, I think.
Because Miggy would be obviously that was last year, so that wouldn't be the same
Miggy
class.
retired. Yeah.
End of this
Wait,
year,
maybe.
23.
Yeah. So Miggy won't
Yeah,
be. Miggy would be in the
no,
year after. Yeah.
no. I just can't understand this. Last thing I'll say, and then we'll get out of here. I can't understand how your job is to write for baseball. You're a baseball writer. That means your job is to watch and know baseball. And you are
Some of them aren't baseball
wrong on not
writers.
understanding that Billy Wagner is a Hall of Famer. I just can't. I don't get it.
Well, there's a
I'll
whole
never
problem
get
we
it.
can get into on the BBWAA and who they allow to write. There's some guys that are allowed to vote that haven't written about baseball in like 3 decades. Like that's a problem
Right.
that they have. But I think the ones that are actually engaged and like Derek Gould and people like him that are
Correct.
actually engaged, they do a great job. So as a whole, the BBWAA does a really, really good job. And I think they're pretty accountable. Most of them share their ballots, which I like. But there are some people that needs to be addressed in some situations. But as a whole, I think it gets kind of a bad rap. I think they do a pretty good job. Other like there's very few players that aren't in that I think it's a really big problem outside of steroids, which is just a completely different thing.
Okay. All right. Anything else before
The
we get
one
out of
guy
here?
that I am upset about is Jim Edmonds not getting a longer look at the Hall of Fame. That's the one thing that makes me mad because
Yeah.
he's Andrew
They took
Jones,
him off
but
fast.
he's Andrew Jones, but without the off field issues that Andrew Jones has
Yeah.
had. So
Well,
no, it's don't. That's not even close. Look up Andrew Jones off the field issues if you
I
want more
I
information.
understand. I understand. I understand.
But yeah, I don't
Anything
know.
else?
No, but I'm really happy for those
Who
three.
do we
It's
have
kind of
coming up
weird.
for the next play? Who do we have coming up for the next player profile? You shared that with me, but that does not mean that I remember it.
We're going in order of position numbers to
Oh,
start.
so we got Goldie.
So we got Goldie, and then we'll do the 2 second basemen, and then I don't know if we're gonna do win or not. I don't know which one first. I don't really care. And then we're gonna do the outfield and then the bench.
Well, third baseman is number 5, so he would come
Yeah, I know,
before
but
the
I don't know
shortstop.
if you can do around the horn or you can do whatever. But then we should have done pitchers first. That's not the way I want to do it.
We have no method to our madness. Who knows
No,
who
we
we're
don't. I
talking
have a
about?
schedule and I don't we're not gonna follow it. I'm trying to make
No,
us
it's the
more
only schedule
organized.
we've ever made, and I guarantee that we're not
We
going to
didn't
follow.
make it. I did it.
That's because I'm not. I mean, I don't follow a schedule. I'm
We
retired.
should follow it. Our goal is to release them every Monday and Thursday. We're gonna try to do that.
That. Yep. Here we go.
In the afternoon. So that means we need to record every Sunday and Wednesday, and we'll surely miss at least one of those.
I
But
would
we'll
like to
try.
say that I was 3 for 4 in the football weekend. However, I did say, so you're telling me the Chiefs are going to win. So essentially, I feel like I get credit for that. So that's 4 for 4. Who do you have in the Super
Yeah.
Bowl?
Gosh, the AFC is tough. NFC, I think the Niners win it. I like the Lions, but the 49ers just played one of their worst games of the season and won in a playoff game. So I think they're going to move on. And the AFC is tough. I could go either way. I'm going to go Ravens. I think the Ravens do it. I think Lamar proved a lot to me, even though he didn't need to me, but he did his last game. And I think he's just going to keep it rolling. And that defense is
I,
nuts.
I'm going Chiefs Lions.
Are you okay? Well, one of us is going to be, I mean,
Well, we
odds
could
are
both be
we're
wrong.
going to be both be 1 for 2. That's what
The
the
only
odds
reason
are.
is Jason Kelsey's going to show up doing shots out of a bowling ball, and then he's going to be up there with T Swizzle and all of them shirtless again in his sweats and Tims. And there's just some magic right there. Here's what can I tell you
I
what I
don't
hope
know if he
happens?
goes into if he,
I think
before
you
you
and
do
I talked
that.
about this.
Go ahead. Yeah. What?
I hope that the Chiefs win the Super Bowl. Travis retires and he and Jason go into the Hall of Fame together.
That'd be great, but I'm
Would
not
that
ready
not
to
be
stop
awesome?
watching. It would be great, but I don't want to stop watching Travis Kelsey play football yet.
I understand that, but how cool would that be? Also, here's what I want. This is all I want in life. I want to be invited to Travis Kelsey's bachelor party that Jason Kelsey's going to put on for him. Can you imagine how much fun that thing's going to be?
I can guarantee you won't be invited.
I think there's a strong chance that I'm not on that list. I think there's a strong chance I'm not on that list. Love it,
Yeah,
love
so
it. I love
especially if
those
he's
guys.
still,
Here's
if
the other thing.
especially
I love Lamar, so I'm actually going to be rooting for Baltimore. I'm going to be rooting for Detroit because what's going on in Motor City? Dan Campbell had Sean Payton not been arrogant and retired a year earlier. Dan Campbell's probably the head coach down here and in New Orleans, and my life is a whole lot better as far as a New Orleans Saints fan goes. So today we hired the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive coordinator. Did anyone watch the Pittsburgh Steelers
we
offense this
did.
year? Yeah, you know why? Because
No, we
no one wants
didn't.
to come down. Yes, we did. Because no one wants to come down here because they know Dennis Allen's getting fired after this year. That's my belief.
Did that actually happen?
Yes.
How did I miss that?
Sullivan. I don't know, but good thing. Your life was better without me telling you that. So there is that.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yep.
Okay. Either way, the last thing that we need to get out of here because we said we're going to keep this short. We haven't.
Well.
Patrick Mahomes wins the Super Bowl this year. Is he now the second greatest quarterback to ever live?
I think he already is.
Okay. I agree. I actually agree with that.
5 straight. Is it 5? 5 straight. He's played 5 years as a starter and been to the AFC Championship every year.
And a
By the way,
loaded
let's not
AFC.
forget that Brock Purdy has started for a year and a half, and he's been to 2 AFC Championships. We got to see George Kittle interview today, made some great points. Let's stop giving the Brock Purdy hate. All right, let's stop that. But I think that Patrick Mahomes right now already has maybe cemented himself on the Rushmore. Let's say that. If you want to put him at number 2, I mean, you got the Peyton argument. Obviously, there's the Elway argument. There's the Aaron Rodgers argument. Wherever you want to put him, he's on the Mount Rushmore right now.
He's number 2.
That's what I'll say.
But also going
That's
back
fine.
to Brock Purdy,
I agree.
If he was playing a better defense, he would have thrown about 7 interceptions. But that's fine. He didn't. I get it. He was horrible on Sunday. Horrible. But I think he's good. But he was really bad on Sunday. He needs to be better. They're going to lose.
But when they needed him in the fourth, what did he do? He took him down and got him to win.
Yeah, but
that's what you need people to happen. That's what you need.
I agree. But if he does that again this week, they're losing.
Also, Josh Allen is a fucking dog. I want to watch that guy play like every week. Every week, that guy. The Bills and Chiefs should play every week next year. Can we have an NFL schedule with just the Bills and Chiefs 17 straight games?
I don't know if that'd be great for ratings, to be honest with you. All the other games don't win it because there's no excitement. Those teams would be so tired of it.
For the 14th time, or Bills Jets.
So Joe Burrow's
Panthers, whatever.
So Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson are just running through the rest of the league.
All right, let's get out of here. I've gone too far on the NFL.
Yeah, we got to go.
All right, everybody, what did you do?
Restart the outro.
Everybody have a fantastic weekend. We'll be back next week with our Goldie episode, and we can't wait to talk to you soon. Go Cards.